Guys, look at this beautiful, beautiful chili con queso dip. That is not processed cheese, guys, and those are real chilies. And it's good. Howdy folks, welcome back to Texas Cooking Today. On this episode we're going to be making some chili con queso. Now chili con queso is delicious. It's fantastic for the ball game. But you know what? I think there's a lot of folks in the United States that are just sick and tired of making chili con queso with processed cheese. And I've even had a few complaints from some of my viewers that on my last recipe said, hey, why did you use processed cheese? So I'll tell you what, today I'm going to show you a very special chili con queso recipe. This uses a Mexican cheese and it uses the most popular chili in Mexico. So I'll tell you what folks, come over, let me show you these fantastic ingredients and let's get busy making some of the most delicious chili con queso that you are ever going to put in your mouth. Come on. Okay guys, let's take a look at our ingredients. First of all, it's about the cheese and the chilies, okay? Cheese, chilies. Now first, this is a poblano, and this is a really small poblano, guys. This is about as small as they are. Now the big poblanos will be about this long and they'll be about yay wide, so they can be big or they can be like this, a little bit smaller. If you're using the big ones, 2 of them will be probably enough for this. If you're using smaller ones like this, 4 or 5 of them would be perfect for this dish. On the smaller chilies here, these are jalapenos. Now, jalapenos are really popular in the United States and in Mexico. But in Mexico, the most popular chili is this guy right here. And it's because it has the flavor of this, but not the heat. So you get, about less than half of the heat or a quarter of the heat of this with the same flavor. And it's a delicious, thick, meaty chili that's fantastic to use. I wanted to bump up the heat in my dish a little bit, so I'm going to use some of these. You can do anything you want, guys. If you want banana chilies, they'll work in this. Okay, you can use Anaheim chilies. They do fine in this. So give some variation on that. That's fine. You don't have to worry about it. But my choice are going to be these 2. The cheese is a fabulous cheese that comes from the southern tip of Mexico. This is called Oaxaca. Now that's O-A-X-A-C-A, Oaxaca. And Oaxaca is a wonderful cheese that's basically a type of string cheese, guys. It just kind of pulls apart real naturally. And this is a wonderful cheese when it comes to making chili con queso. It melts wonderfully. It has this beautiful buttery flavor. Now if you're wondering off the front, if you're saying, hey, can I use regular string cheese for this? Well, yeah, you can, but it won't have exactly the same flavor as this. The Oaxaca, it's a bit more buttery in its flavor and a slightly deeper cream flavor to it. Very, very good cheese. So if you can get this, get it. Your Hispanic markets will almost always sell it. And if you're looking for it and it's not open like this, it'll be in a ball about the size of an onion, and you'll see it kind of like all wadded and knotted up. And that's the reason it looks like this. That's the way it came originally. It was all wound around itself. When the market gets this, they just separate it and open it up like this. Other items that we're going to need in this, you're going to need a medium onion. We're going to be using about 2 cloves of garlic, 1 teaspoon of paprika, 4 tablespoons of butter, a half a teaspoon of salt, 1 cup of whole cream. That's whipping cream, heavy cream, whatever you want to call it. That's whole cream right there, guys. And that's going to be it. That's what we're going to use to make this fabulous dish. Guys, let's get on to making the tastiest chili con queso you're ever going to put in your mouth. Okay guys, when you're going to be scorching the skin off of your chilies, there's a lot of ways you can do this. First of all, if you're using electric cooking, all right, this won't work on the burner the way I'm going to do on a gas burner, okay? So what I would recommend, turn your broiler on, okay? Take that top rack as close to that broiler element as possible. Place your chilies on a pan, a sheet pan, and put it under the broiler. And you'll see it, the skin will start blistering, it'll pop, and as it does, turn those chilies a little bit so that each side gets plenty of heat until it starts blistering. Once they are mostly blistered, take those, place them into a Ziploc bag, a plastic bag, something to seal it tight so that it gets the steam from its own heat. It will finish releasing the rest of its skin. It'll peel off very easily, okay? Another way you can do this, if you have a gas grill, charcoal grill, electric grill, place your chilies right on top of that grate and just scorch it right off. And it gives it a wonderful charcoal flavor. Okay, so it's a very good way of doing it. If you like that wood smoked flavor in your chilies, bam, this is going to give it to you using that charcoal grill. Now, another way, if you have gas, well, it's really simple. Fire up your burner on your gas stove, put the chilies directly on top of it, and scorch the skin off. Don't worry, guys. It's not going to hurt the chilies to go straight onto the heat. There we go. They'll start popping and crackling. Another thing you can do, a lot of chefs, we have torches. Okay, so take your chili in some tongs. Don't do this with your hands. Use tongs. Light your torch and cook off that chili. Here we go. This works really good on the small ones because it's hard to get these over a stove or in certain areas that can heat. So, under a broiler or with a torch. So that's what I'm going to do, guys. I'm going to sit here and cook these chilies and get them so they're all blistered and wonderful. And when I say they are very resistant to the heat, you know how long these have been sitting on this, okay? And look, it's not that charred. Not much charring at all. Don't be afraid to get those chilies right down in some heat. They can handle it. Take a closer look. Come on over. So guys, there we are, just cooking these off one at a time. As I say, don't be afraid to get them right in the heat. Okay guys, I have finished charring all of those chilies. Now it's time to wash the skin off of them. Now I want to say one thing. When you're going to be handling chilies, this is a really, really important tip right here. If you're going to handle chilies, you'd be really, really smart to just go ahead, put some cooking gloves on, all right? Get a thin layer between you and that because that chili contains an oil called capsaicin. Now, you might be thinking, oh, it's not a big deal. I can handle a little capsaicin on my hands. Well, I'll tell you what, folks, handling it on your hands isn't the issue. It's when you rub under your eye 3 or 4 hours later and then suddenly your face and your eye are burning because you forgot that stuff soaks into your skin and doesn't wash off with soap. Okay, so something you might want to remember right there is just to make sure you glove up and protect yourself and you avoid any problems. Now, get some water flow here. 2 things I want to show you. First, when you're doing these, I want to show you how to core them in a little bit. But for now, just wash the skin off the outside and that's all you have to do. On the poblanos, let me show you a trick on these. After we wash the outside, we're going to go ahead and crown and seed it. And it doesn't take a whole lot. All right, almost got all that skin off. Now, here we go. Push my finger into the side here and pull down. You see it makes a nice little slit, opens it right up. If you're stuffing this chili, that's how you do it to stuff it. In the top, there's a little seed pod. Simply reach up and pinch that. It'll break that pod loose to your hand and the rest of the seeds will break free. They will simply wash out after that. Okay? That's how you fix a chili to be stuffed. We're not stuffing this, so I'm going to go ahead and crown it, which means just peeling back right here at the corner where the crown forms. Boom. Crown's out of the way. Chili's opens up and flat and ready to be sliced. Okay? There we go. We're ready to process that. Now just do the rest of them the same way and we're going to get caught up on the other side when it comes time to cut. There we are, guys. We have them all washed up and ready to go.
I'm going to push these over to the side. First thing I want to show you is on these poblanos, all we need to do is just get these sliced down into some heavy dice. In other words, I would say about 3/8 to 1/2 inch square. So what I'm doing is looking to make 3/8 to 1/2 inch wide strips. Now, I would like to say that when you're going to be handling that stuff, pinch the blade, wrap those fingers around it for a better grip. Curve the fingertips under, okay? There we are. Isn't that beautiful? And once you get those cut into nice 3/8 to 1/2 inch wide strips, just start making cross cuts the same size. All right. Isn't that too easy, huh? Okay, I'm going to be doing all of my poblanos that way. So you will know, how am I going to be doing these jalapenos? First, I'm going to cut that crown off and I'm going to split it right down the middle. This exposes the core, guys. Now, if you want to remove the majority of the heat on a jalapeno, all you have to do is this right here. I have removed right there 90% of the heat that's contained in this, I might have said poblano earlier, in this jalapeno. So right there, that's how I want all of my jalapeno done. I want to go ahead and core it all out. If you want to chop that up and put it down in your queso dip, you can do it. But number one, I don't like that white material in my queso dip. I don't like the crowns in my queso dip, and I certainly don't like the seeds in there. So I like to forgo having any of that in there. I just process mine in this way. Okay, I've cleaned up the mess a little bit. When it comes time to cutting these, I want to cut narrower strips. On these, I'm going to cut little bitty 1/8 to 1/4 inch wide strips. Just like that. Just like little matchsticks. Isn't that pretty? Now, the same on that cross cut for a small dice. Alright guys, it's time for us to dice our onion. Now I want to give a full quality tutorial on dicing an onion and how to get the dice as even as absolutely possible. This is a neat technique which is used by some of the top chefs around the world, and it really does work like a charm. Two things you got to remember about an onion is the juices, of course, are going to make you cry. So if you don't want that issue, turn a fan on nearby, okay? Move some air around so that that fume doesn't stay in presence of your face and you won't cry as much. And the second thing, the onion weeps from either end, okay? In other words, if you can cut this end, it's going to release juices. If you cut this end, it'll release juices. But it'll release more of its juices from the root end than it will from the stem end. So do yourself a favor. If you're going to cut one end off to set it on, cut that stem end and avoid cutting the root end until the last, okay? So what we're going to do here is I want to show you a neat technique of dividing this down, getting it so it's easy to handle and make perfect dice with. First, we have to understand that the onion grows in layers, one layer over another, all the way around. So let's look at this, instead of looking at it as something that's round, let's look at this like something that's square, okay? So here we have our first flat side. Now, I want to cut even dice from this layered square, which means I need to make cuts this way, and this way, okay? There's 3 different directions of cuts you have to make because the layers on this side won't get fully cut if you don't do all 3, and the same way on this side. So I have cuts this way that are cutting this side, and cuts this way that are cutting this and but not this side, and then cuts this way that are cutting this side but not this side, okay? So you have to have all 3 directions going. To make that easier, let's bring it down to smaller pieces. We're going to turn this into thirds. So on the side of the root, I'm going to position my blade right over on the side of it, and I'm going to push straight down to produce 1/3 of my onion. Then I'm going to do the same thing on the other side, just like that. Now if you want at this point, let's just go ahead and peel off that outer layer. Boom. Look how easy that was. A lot of times I do this right before I cut down on that. You can do it either way. There we go. Got outer layers out of my hair. Now, here's the thing. I have some of those flat spots right here in the center of this, and of course along the side here, which means I need to make cuts this way, and of course this way. But the center parts that are flat, those will be real wide if I don't make a few cuts this way. On these, on the side, it needs one cut this way, cuts this way, and then this way. All right, and the same on that piece. When you're doing this, guys, and you're making that cross cut, turn the blade so that it's aimed away from you. Otherwise, if the blade is aimed to this way and you're right-handed, then that's called the suicide cut. And if you're left-handed and you cut this way, that's the suicide cut, because the blade can come back towards you and injure you horribly, okay? So always remember that, to cut away. Next, we're going to make little strips, and the way I'm going to do this, I'm going to push through, I'm going to hold the food in place as I pull my knife back, keeping the edge in contact with the board at all times, okay? Do that again. I'll just do it all the way across. Remember, guys, this is to make perfect, even dice. Boom. All right, now you can see on the side here, this would have been really wide had I not made that cross cut, okay? That's the importance. Always keeping the fingers on the left hand turned under and the thumb behind. And there we have our dice, guys. Even, smooth, wonderful. This is what cooks up even in dishes like this. This is what looks nice and even on the chip when somebody pulls it out of that dish. And that's what you want, guys, is an even and perfect dice. Now what I do when I'm pushing food onto my edge, I've got the edge down, guys. Now this is dangerous, okay? But I've got it down against the board so I don't slide my fingers up and cut my hand on that. Anytime that you see me pushing food off of this lengthwise, I've got my fingers curled up so they're not in contact with the edge. Otherwise, you're smartest to simply do this, okay? I've been doing it for so many years that to me, it's just natural. Okay, that center section, let me show you how that's cut. First, very gently, and I told you about that suicide cut, right? We started our cut, and I'm going to rotate my knife each way. Isn't that nice? Now that I've made that cross cut, like so, we've opened it up, as you see there, okay? The center pieces, as I mentioned, were kind of wide, so let me go ahead. I want to make a center cut right there and down, and one on either side of him, just like this. And if some of those pieces want to come out, it's going to happen, guys. Just anticipate a few pieces will pop out from the center there. And now we just make our cross cuts for, again, that perfect dice. About an inch off of the root, stop, and work up each side. You're left over with that root and perfect dice. Isn't that nice? All right, let's do this again. You notice I put my fingers together on top. All right, just that simple. Now, look at these fingers curled under. I catch the end one over here with my finger, so as I slide the knife forward, that won't push away, okay? But I have it turned under and the thumb is behind. My knife side rides right on this knuckle every single time. All right, guys, now it's time to take care of that garlic. When you're trying to get into one of these things of garlic, first, use your thumb to push down in the middle or just push down hard with your hand. It'll break the whole thing open. I've been doing it like this for years. I just push down in the middle and pull out. We need to get that papery husk off of the outside of that. And if you've ever tried to remove this, you know sometimes it can be a little bit of a pain in the rear. So let me show you a trick that I developed when I was a boy that this works, and it works well. The trick is you got to get the paper to loosen up from that meat underneath, and preferably without breaking or bruising the meat. And this way does both. You're going to twist back and forth like this with your fingers Not hard enough to break the meat in the middle, but hard enough to hear the crackling of the paper. Okay, crackling done, pops free. Do it again. Boom, pops free. Guys, such a simple technique. You really should give that a try. Train yourself to do that so you're not struggling with your garlic. And here's the next neat idea. You can do this with whole bulbs of garlic and store this part in a plastic bag in your fridge and keep for a week or two. Next part, mincing garlic. Kind of 101, guys. Here's the thing of this. You need a knife that's about 8 inches long. The blade doesn't need to have too much curve. If it does, it's a little harder to do this technique because you want the blade to come off of the board as we rock it up and down like this. And normally I teach to choke up on the blade, and you can do that. You can do that in this, but I think it's harder to do it that way. All right? I think it's easier on this particular technique to pull back to the back of the blade. And the only reason I suggest doing it this way is because you have a second hand in control of the blade, this hand over here. Up here on this bull-nosed back of my blade, I'm going to place my fingers with my thumb tucked under, just like this, my fingers up here, and that gives me control over the blade this way, as well as putting pressure down on it. So I get that motion. Isn't that nice? And that's where we mince our garlic. So I'll first remove that calloused end. I don't like to see that little brown in any of my dishes. So I clean it out. The next thing, I don't want the garlic bobbing around on me when I'm trying to cut it. So I crush it. Boom, just like that. It doesn't take a hard push, guys. It'll crush easily. And then from there, again, thumb under, fingers on top, start with a gentle chopping motion just to get it broken down into smaller pieces. The smaller the pieces get, the faster your knife can move, okay? And no, I didn't speed the film up. See very quickly that this is a way of mincing garlic. The knife is easy to clean. You know those garlic presses? Yeah, try cleaning one of those things out sometime, okay? Not as easy as it looks. And a garlic press gives you garlic one way. This gives me beautifully fine chopped garlic, chopped down to whatever level I want. So the mince can be as coarse or as fine as I choose this way. In this dish, I want it to disappear. I want it to just kind of become a background flavor that people wonder how that got there, okay? Last one. Something else, when I'm doing this, I'll angle my blade away from me just a little bit. I find that gives a little bit better cut on those pieces of garlic. Alright, there we have it. We are all minced up, ready to go. That looks to me, folks, like about 1.5 teaspoons of fine minced garlic. Guys, next we got to process our cheese. And think about Oaxaca. This stuff is not so easy to grate, okay? But what you can do is you can kind of split it down just a little bit like this. You don't have to do a whole lot of it. What I'm doing here is I'm getting ready to cut it into, well, basically small dice. I guess you could call it that. Really rough, uneven looking dice, but yeah, small dice. And to make this easier to cut, I want to divide it into 2 batches. And this is 1 pound of Oaxaca, guys. Remember, keep those fingers curled under, the thumb behind. Choke up on that blade. Now, if you're wondering, hey, Chef Trotter, you're cutting cheese on a green board. What are you doing? You know, there's this rule in the kitchen that we don't cross-contaminate stuff. Cheese is normally cut on a white board because white boards are used for processing dairy, okay? Dairy and bakery stuff. That's what the white boards are for. Green boards are for vegetables and that kind of stuff. It was already up here, and here's the thing, guys. The cheese is not going to be used raw. The cheese is going to be cooked along with the vegetables. So in this case, I was not too worried about doing this. Otherwise, you would have seen me pull out one of my other boards, okay? Okay guys, it's time for us to get on with making this wonderful tasting dip. Now if you'll notice, we went ahead and processed all of our vegetables out, and right there it looks like we have about 1.5 cups of diced chilies and about 1.5 cups of diced onion. About 1 teaspoon to 1.5 teaspoons of fine minced garlic, and we're about to get at it, guys. So let's look right down into that saucepan over here and let's get busy making us the best tasting goodie that we can make. Okay guys, first let me get some heat under that pan. Second, let's get that fat right down in there. Now when I say fat, that butter, yeah, I'm using butter as our fat to cook in. I think it lends well to this because butter comes from milk, from cream. And, well, what are we going to be cooking with? We're going to be cooking with cream, so it just naturally works right back into it. Okay guys, if you would go ahead, set your temperature to a medium-high temperature as we're heating that butter, and as soon as it becomes melted all the way, then we're going to go ahead and put our onion in there and get started sweating the onion. Now what is sweating? Sweating is where we take a vegetable, and it's commonly done with onions. That's where we take a vegetable and we put it down in a little bit of oil, just a tiny bit, just enough to keep it from sticking. In this case, it's more oil than the onion would need, but onion and chilies combined, it'll work. We put it in that and then cover it, and we allow the steam over a medium heat to slowly cook that item all the way through. So it's a combination of kind of a mild fry with steaming action. Here we have it. Our butter's ready. Our onions are in. To start, I'm just going to use a spoon. Later I'll switch to a whisk when it comes time to start mixing in the cheese and everything. Now the first thing I want to do is I just want to get the onions coated. I'm going to cover this, reduce my temperature to a medium, and I'm going to let that sweat, guys. I will check it about every 2 to 3 minutes to make sure it's not burning on the bottom. Look at the steam coming out of that, guys. Ooh, yeah. So this is what I'm talking about. That's sweating onions right there. What we are doing. See how they're like frying in the bottom, releasing all that steam, cooking in it. We're already seeing a little bit of change in color and in the texture of the onion. They're not standing up as high as they did at first. That right there was 2 minutes. Let's keep on cooking. Okay guys, let's take a look at these onions now. They're getting a little more cooked down. You can see that they've reduced dramatically, and I'm getting just a slight amount of browning on some of it. If you get some browning on some of yours, guys, don't worry about that. We're not looking for browning, but it's not going to injure it or hurt it in any way, okay? Okay guys, we are now 8 minutes in. You see these are starting to look a little more translucent than they were before. They don't have that real solid white appearance to them anymore. You see, I can push them up on the far side of the pan and it's a little more visible that way. See what I'm talking about? So, pardon that. I'm going to go ahead and cover this for about another 2 minutes, and then I'm going to put my chilies in there. It has now been a full 10 minutes. Our onions are ready for the chilies. Now we're going to do the same thing with these chilies that we did with the onions. We're going to sweat them in. Remember, same rule as when we're cooking the onion, every 2 minutes. Okay guys, it has been a full 5 minutes on the poblano, so that's a total of 15 minutes in on cooking all of this part. Now, if you look in there, you can see that those onions have become quite translucent. Let's go ahead and put the garlic in there. There we go. Our paprika, as I mentioned before, I'll be using about 1 teaspoon of paprika. There we go. About 1 teaspoon of paprika. And about 1/2 teaspoon of salt. Right there. Let's go ahead and stir that. Guys, the spices need 2 minutes to sweat with the other vegetables. Guys, this has been on here now for another 2 minutes. So basically what we've got here is about a 17-minute cook. Those onions are cooked down very soft. The chilies still have their texture. The garlic has been cooked. The paprika has been cooked. All I need to do now, take this off of the flame. I'm going to set it right here. I'm going to set it out open. And guys, I'm doing that on purpose. I'm trying to remove as much moisture as possible from this pot right now. The problem I'm going to have in a little bit, when I put that cream in there, there's going to be too much moisture to make a thick, cheesy sauce. And so we need to remove as much moisture now and then as absolutely possible. So this is going to spend 5 minutes just sitting open, steaming off, cooling down a little bit. Don't worry about the cool down thing. That'll be fine. It won't hurt it. We're releasing steam, guys. And if you want, during that process, stir it occasionally so it keeps releasing more of the heat that's down inside of it, okay? Okay, guys. This has had plenty of time to cool now. It's been about, 5-6 minutes. Now, we need to go ahead and get our cream down in this. Oh, yeah. All right, guys, I'm heating this now on a low heat. You can go medium low to low heat. We want to bring it up in temperature slowly and get our cheese worked down into that. I'm going to start with the first of the cheese, just putting in a couple of handfuls. And we're going to gently melt that cheese with the cream, bringing it all up in temperature. So guys, this is a matter of patience and stirring, okay? So you just got to keep stirring. Stir this about 1 minute intervals at least. So as you can already see, this is not going exactly like most of the chili con queso recipes that you've ever seen. Trust me though, you're going to like it. It's a good one. Okay guys, a couple of minutes in, see how we're starting to get the stringy, gooey mess going on here? Okay, that's fine, don't worry. That means it's working, okay? That's a good sign. Don't worry, that's going to melt right into that cream and become sauce. Now since we're getting that good melting action now, I'm going to go ahead and put in a couple of more handfuls of Oaxaca. Don't let it sit more than a minute without stirring it. Otherwise, you're going to get burning on the bottom, and you don't need that issue, okay? Okay, guys, that second 2 fistfuls of cheese has now started to get where that first was, okay? And we're getting very viscous down in here. So I'm going to go ahead and we're going to sprinkle in the rest of the cheese. Okay, guys, once you've noticed that it's not stringy anymore, just give it a good whisking. Work in every last bit of that cheese. And you notice it's become very viscous now. And that's the heat working on it. So I'm going to drop the heat from it. And I'm going to sit here slowly applying heat and taking it off and just allowing some of the steam to come off of it, guys. So don't be in a rush on this. Just low heat occasionally. Now remember, guys, any chef needs to test what they're cooking, okay? So go ahead and get some, taste it. If it needs a little salt or any seasoning adjustments, this is the time to do it right now. Oh my God, that's delicious. I'll be straight up with you. I believe it needs a little bit of salt. I'm going to add just a few grains here, about another 1/4 teaspoon. And work that in, and that should do the trick. Oh man, tell you what, this stuff, just delicious. Delicious goodie right here, guys. Now, I tell you what, let me get a little chip. Chili con queso. It is just magnificent. Wow. This one is just banging good too, guys. Oh, it's unbelievable. That real cheese flavor. The intensity of the chilies. There's no heat. I'm not getting any kind of a heat exchange in my mouth at all. It's not like it's a spicy dish, but it is definitely a warm, inviting, rich, full-bodied dish. Guys, you've got to try this one. This chili con queso is going to beat out every other recipe that you've ever tasted. It's just that good.
I'd like to say thank you very much for watching Texas Cooking Today and for watching this episode. And guys, if you would, please subscribe to Texas Cooking Today. Please share my videos. I need help. And click the like button. That, long views, gives me high ratings in where I'm ranked when people search, so they see me early on. Thank you very much for your help. I appreciate that. And if you would, give this dish a try as I've said. And one last thing, folks, just have a good day. Bye-bye.